Rhett Norton with testingtheory.com. Too many executives and companies see testing as a risky endeavor. Today, I'm going to give you the strategy and talking points you can use in case someone in your company is thwarting your testing because testing is risky. After watching this video, you'll be able to convince even the most stubborn executives that they should be testing. At the end, I'll also show you a test result where we were able to get a 13% lift, which was a huge amount of money for the company we're testing with. You may have been in meetings where you've heard things like this. Making changes to our site is too risky. How does changing our site or app too often impact our visitors? Is it bad for visitors to see lower performing experiences? What if visitors are used to something and then we change it? Shouldn't we reduce the traffic to eliminate the risk and then we can ramp up that traffic later? These and other types of scenarios and questions come up all the time, and at a fundamental basis, the problem that people don't understand is risk. So what is risk? First and foremost, risk is both positive and negative. And what this means is people are worried about negative risk, like, oh, it might hurt the experience, it might be bad. But the positive risk is equally important, and it's the potential for a really good thing to happen. Yes, a test might reduce the visitor experience, but if you're doing it right, what if it drastically improves the visitor experience? Another important thing to understand about risk is that there are actual risks and there are perceived risks. An actual risk is something that's tangible that really can have an impact, but most often these statements are perceived risks. They're risks that people think are inherent, but they're actually not. Testing actually limits your downside risk and maximizes your positive potential. And what I mean by that is when you run a test, there's multiple variations and it's also time bound. It's only going to run for a few weeks. And so you're limiting the downside risk of something losing to only a few weeks or to one or two variations of the ones that you're testing. However, your upside potential is maximized because you find a winner from that test, and that winner is now implemented on your site in the long term. And so while you may have had a bad experience or not as good experience for a few weeks with multiple variations, the winning experience has a positive impact in perpetuity as you implement that on your site. The other reason that testing maximizes your upside risk is because with multiple variations, you're more likely to find a winning test. So again, this is where testing limits your downside risk and maximizes your upside potential or your positive risk. There's several other reasons why testing is intelligent risk-taking, and I want to highlight what some of those are. First, your tests have isolated variables. So when something wins or loses, you know exactly why because you're isolating variables. Second, your tests are time-bound, as we talked about. A test is only for a certain amount of period, then you turn it off and you implement the winners and you discard the losers. That time-bound factor is important, and that's why it's intelligent risk-taking as well. Another reason why testing is intelligent risk-taking is because testing is looking at your measure of success as a result. So your main conversion or whatever you're trying to influence on your site is the success and the barometer by which we're looking at whether a test is good or bad. And so by having an eye on that metric, you are taking intelligent risk because you're maximizing that metric with your tests. Testing is intelligent risk-taking because it's learning focused. Every time you learn with a test, you're able to take that learning, apply it to your site and your visitors, and get long-term value from that learning. Testing is intelligent risk-taking because it allows you to iterate. When you iterate with your variations, you can quickly pivot away from what isn't working, but still use that signal of value. If something gets a truly large negative lift, you know that that thing was important, and then you can take that, iterate on it, and make it better, or discard it altogether. For the person that says testing isn't that great because the changes are too frequent, I would refer you to sites like Amazon who are changing their site all the time. And even though they're changing it, we still figure it out. We still buy products. So too frequent changes isn't a bad thing, especially if your site is getting better and better. As you improve your site with testing, it gets better and better. And so those changes are helping the visitors have a better experience. The other thing to consider is that most sites in general don't have a really high frequency of return visitors. And so if visitors are coming daily, yeah, they may notice the change, but if they're coming daily, they're familiar enough with your site that they'll figure it out. Now, if your visitors are more typical, like monthly or quarterly or yearly, then they're not going to notice that change anyway. So you can change your site 100 times throughout the year, and if they're coming a few times, they're just expecting something new because they don't come that often. So as people are arguing about risk in your company, keep in mind the visitor frequency and how truly that makes a difference. The last point that we talked about are those people that want to limit the amount of traffic because they think that will limit the risk. The first and foremost thing to understand is this doesn't change your risk at all. All this does is take longer to get test results. You need a certain amount of traffic to be able to declare a winner. And if you limit that traffic to a small amount, then all you're doing is extending the period it takes to get the test result. If you're concerned about people having a bad experience right out of the gate, then you either need to do one of two things. You need to have a better QA experience so you're not concerned about bugs being introduced into the test. and you can fix those before the test goes live. Or two, you need to have better test variations. If you're concerned that a test variation should be shut off before it has a chance to truly give you a test result, then you probably haven't strategically planned that variation, and you need to rethink how you're doing the test in the first place. The test result I'm going to show you highlights the importance of taking risks to learn, even when the company is saying, hey, we shouldn't do that. So this test result comes from Norwegian Cruise Lines, and as a cruise company, they want people to come up, find a cruise, and go on a cruise. And so we were testing the booking widget. Most travel sites have a booking widget, and they said, of course, we want to test it. It's important to our business. And so they said, hey, it's on the right. Maybe we should test it putting it on the left or putting it in the middle, changing the location of the booking widget. And I proposed to them an existence test. As you know, if you've been watching my videos, existence testing is when you remove an element to see the value or impact of that element itself. And of course, the natural response from them was, no way, that's too risky. We cannot afford to lose the booking widget because we think it's important to our business. At first, they weren't willing to take the risk of removing the booking widget, but with some good consulting and some good strategy and teaching, we were able to convince them to try it. So one of the variations, remove the booking widget altogether. Again, you might consider that a big risk if you were in their shoes, but remember the positive upside of risk-taking. We wanted to learn about the booking widget. We wanted to maximize its potential and its value. And so by doing this risky test, we knew that we'd be learning and having a better outcome in the long run. So here are the test results. You can see that by hiding the booking widget, there was a 13% lift. And the variation, the one where we hid the booking widget. It didn't matter if it was on the right or the left or the center as much, but by removing it, it showed us that that experience was actually hurting the booking widget. Taking that risk was super valuable for Norwegian Cruise Lines to the tune of millions of dollars per year. Now, I'll save this for another time, another case study, but we actually ended up wanting to learn more about the booking widget. We weren't like, hey, we should just remove it because it lost. We were like, well, why was it losing? And so it drove more questions. We learned the booking widget was important. We learned that it wasn't doing as well as it could have because removing it was better. And so it led us to ask more questions and do more follow-up testing on it, which I'll show you in a different case study in the future. But the point of this one is to show you that Norwegian Cruise Lines took a huge risk and ended up paying off for them. So remember that risk-taking is good. Use risk-taking in your testing to maximize your positive risk. Help people in your company see that risk-taking is a good thing and that you can get better test results by thinking outside the box and by taking these risks. Thanks for joining me today. If you liked the video, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel so you can see my future videos. You can also visit me at testingtheory.com where I have more advanced trainings on courses just like this one.